Hi everyone, today we're having a look at aid agencies, and as you can see by the pictures on the screen, these are companies like Oxfam or World Vision who are helping poorer people in the world. So we'll start just by defining what aid is. Now this definition is according to World Vision. Aid's the assistance that governments or non-government organisations, which you would have learned about in geography, businesses or individuals actually give to people of another country to help them reduce poverty or achieve sustainable development. Now there's three main types of aid. You don't really need to know the names of these, but it helps just to see that the first one is aid that comes from a government that goes directly to another government of another country. And just to give you an example, in 2007 Australia gave $3 billion in aid to other countries. The second type is non-government aid, and that's one we're going to be focusing most on today, and that's non-government organisations like World Vision who get money from businesses, individuals, donations, and then they help people in other countries. And the third one is multilateral aid, which is when governments give international organisations money to help reduce poverty. So Australia gave 400 million in multilateral aid in 2007. Now, there's a couple of ways that these agencies can give people aid. The first way is through emergency or relief aid, and this generally needs to occur because there's been some sudden disaster like an earthquake. You can see in the picture that's actually the World Food Programme plane, and they're dropping food bundles down to people who need it. So it can be in the form of food, clothing, shelter, money or goods, and it's often got to be spread amongst communities because the event affects a lot of people. Currently this week there's a virus going around called the Ebola virus in Africa. So what's happened there is that all these communities in Africa have been cut off because people don't want to drive in and deliver food because they're worried they're going to get this really deadly Ebola virus. So they have to organise some way to get food drops to these people. The other way that aid can be given is as developmental aid. So it's not just that one-off aid to quickly get people through a disaster, but it's actually projects where people like World Vision go in and they train the community members to try and get them to be self-sufficient. It's looking at long-term goals rather than just short-term. And they're helping communities to try and become independent, learning how to grow food, looking at how they can do things better so that the community benefits from that. We're just going to go through now and have a look at some of the major aid agencies. So the first one is the World Food Programme, and they do a lot to help lots of people in the world. They help probably 80 million people a year, and what they do is they respond to emergencies, and they also go into communities and try and help them. So just pause for a minute and have a read through some of the things and make a note about who World Food Programme are and a couple of things that they've done. So here's a little example of what a aid agency has done for a community. They actually created these drying racks for sardines, and this helps the community because they normally dry their sardines in the sand and they lose a bit of it through contamination. So they've actually created these racks so that the people can dry their sardines, and it's a big help for this community. The next group we're going to have a look at is Care Australia. So they're obviously an Australian group, but they help people internationally. So here's listed the things that they do most. So that's food and training. They also look at providing seeds and fertilisers, and they help to try and set up gardens. They're working 97 million people in 86 countries, and they've got staff of 11,000 people. So they've got programs all over the world. Now, World Vision you've all heard of, and I know some people are doing the 40-hour famine. World Vision works in 100 countries. They've got a child sponsorship program, but they also provide emergency relief. So they're a Christian organisation working with communities. You've got here they're working in 100 countries, and a lot of emergency relief as well as developmental aid. Now Oxfam we know obviously from the Oxfam shop. They are looking at long-term development in communities. So they're trying to find some practical ways of how to help communities to grow their own foods and support their development there as well. I just found a little pie chart here which shows you where the money goes for Oxfam. Some people worry sometimes about donating because they don't know where the money's going, but Oxfam is saying that 14% of the money goes to admin, 15% to fundraising, but 70% actually goes to running the programs in the country. So I think that's a pretty good percentage. Now moving to a company that acts really locally here in Newcastle, it's Oz Harvest. So they are a company who go around and collect food from places like Woolworths, Baker's Delight, restaurants, and they collect that food and then distribute it to other providers who then cook meals for people. So they might send it to the neighbourhood centre or the women's refuge to cook meals. So just pause for a minute and make some notes on what Oz Harvest does. You might actually have a look too on the right hand side. I've put some statistics there about food waste, and we're going to have a look at that next. So food waste is a really huge problem in Australia. They're saying that actually 40% of things that you throw out actually is food. So I'd like you to have a look at that over the next few days. Just have a look what's in your bin at home and see how much of it is actually food. They're saying that we throw out 345 kilos of food each year, which I think is a lot, which then comes out to 4 million tonnes of food that's just going into landfill. So, and I think what's quite disturbing is down on the right hand side, they think that Australians actually throw out 20% of the food that they buy and actually goes in to be rubbish. So these facts come from Foodwise, an organisation who are trying to cut down on food waste in Australia. They're saying that $8 billion is what all that food that we're throwing out is equivalent to. And just have a look at where that's going. 2.67 billion on fresh food. So a lot of that would be food that, you know, sitting in the bottom of your crisper going off. 2.18 leftovers, so that's things left over from your dinner that then is being thrown out. $727 million worth of drinks, so just the last bit of drinks being thrown out, or you know, things not being finished. 727 million of frozen food, and $566 million worth of takeaway being thrown out. So young consumers, biggest food wasters, as well as people who have more than $100,000 coming into their household per year, and people with children, which I guess that's from fussy eaters. So lots of reasons why food's being wasted, and just have a look and make a note of a few of those. So that's it for today. Some things that I want you to have a look at that we'll be talking about in class is how you and your family can actually contribute to organisations who are providing aid. But the other thing I actually want you to have a look at is have a look in your bin, see how much food's being wasted, talk to your parents and your other people in your family and see what you think you can do to waste less food. And I'll see you in class.